perfect life with a secret. The air was a thick, suffocating blanket of heat, the kind that steals your breath and makes your clothes feel like a second clammy skin. It wasn't the sweet, salt-scented air of Bondi Beach I loved, but a heavy, metallic tang of stale air, dust, and old paper. That's how it felt the moment I opened the door to my sister Chloe's tiny apartment, a shoebox-sized space tucked away on a quiet street, far from the coastal bustle. Everything looked absurdly normal. The golden light of the late afternoon sun spilling across the wooden floor, the half-empty coffee mug on the kitchen table, a stack of glossy magazines with smiling faces on the covers. But it was all a lie. A beautiful, carefully constructed lie that had taken 5 years to build, and which was about to come crashing down in a single deafening moment. I hadn't come here looking for answers. I'd come to escape. My own life had become a suffocating space filled with unspoken arguments and the hollow echo of a love that was fading little by little, day by day. I was hiding out for a few days after another quiet, brutal fight with Liam, my husband. A fight that was about nothing and everything at once. But that's when I saw it. A small white envelope, so out of place among the chaos of my sister's mail. It was tucked under a stack of old letters from our childhood. It was addressed to Chloe, but as I picked it up, something slid out and clattered onto the floor. A small, shiny silver key. It looked like a key to a bank safe deposit box. And attached to it was a small piece of paper with a date written in my sister's looping script. Not just any date. My wedding anniversary. My hands began to tremble. A cold wave of fear washed over me, a chilling contrast to the oppressive heat. I didn't know why, but I knew this key was not just a key. It was a lock that held a secret. And that secret was about to shatter my life into a million sharp, painful pieces. To understand the weight of that moment, you have to understand the life I thought I had. Liam and I were a Brisbane fairy tale. We met at university, two ambitious students studying architecture and urban planning. Our love felt like a design, meticulously planned and perfectly executed. Our wedding at a vineyard in the Hunter Valley was a dream of white dresses, crisp air, and golden sunlight filtering through grapevines. The scent of sweet wine and blooming jacarandas still lived in my memory. We bought a beautiful Federation house in the inner west of Sydney, its sandstone walls glowing in the morning sun, its floorboards creaking with the promise of a future. Our life was the one you see in magazines. Weekend brunches at a local cafe with the aroma of strong flat whites, the scent of fresh-cut flowers in the living room, and the comforting hum of the city as we slept. But in the last few months, a different kind of noise had started to creep in. A subtle discord. It started with small things. Liam's phone became a fortress, a device he never left unattended. The scent of his cologne was often mixed with something else, a faint, sweet floral perfume that wasn't mine. He would come home late from what he called client dinners, but he would smell of cheap beer, not expensive wine. I'd ask him about his long hours, and he'd just say, "It's the new project, love. It's a killer. Just a little stressful." He'd say it with a smile, but his eyes were empty. He was physically there, but emotionally gone. I tried to talk to my sister, Chloe. She was my rock, my confidant. She was an artist, a free spirit who'd spent the last decade traveling. I was overjoyed at her return. But she was different. Her eyes, usually full of life, were haunted. She avoided me whenever I brought up Liam. "He's a good guy, Anya," she'd say, her voice strained. "You're lucky." But her gaze would always flicker away, as if she was hiding something. The silence between us was heavier than any argument. I could feel her fear. I felt there was something between her and Liam. My perfect world was cracking. I wanted to ask her directly, but she never gave me the chance. One evening, she asked me to pick up some of her paintings from her studio. I agreed. When I arrived, I saw Liam coming out of her studio. I asked what he was doing there, and he said, "I just wanted to talk about you, Anya." His voice was strained, and in his eyes, I saw something I'd never seen before, a cold, calculating look. My mind refused to believe what I was seeing. This was not normal. This was wrong. I drove away without saying a word. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, listening to Liam's steady breathing next to me. Every breath felt like a lie. The next day, I went back to Chloe's studio. I needed to understand what was going on. I found her on the floor, surrounded by her paintings. She was in tears. "I can't take this anymore, Anya," she said. "He's not who he seems to be." She told me that Liam had been blackmailing her, threatening to destroy her career as an artist if she didn't keep quiet. "What did you do?" I asked. She shook her head, not answering. I grabbed her by the hands. "Chloe, tell me, what are you hiding?" She looked into my eyes, and in her eyes I saw not only fear, but a new resolve. "You have to leave, Anya. Now. Liam is a monster. She was cut off by the sound of the studio door opening. Liam was standing in the doorway. His face was pale with fury. He walked slowly into the room, his eyes fixed only on me. "I knew you'd come here, Anya," he said. His voice was quiet, but there was steel in it. "I knew you'd look for answers, but I didn't expect you to find this." He pulled something wrapped in an old newspaper out of his pocket. It was a small silver key. I felt the ground give way beneath my feet. It was the same key I had found in Chloe's apartment. He knew I had found it. He was waiting for me. He was leading me down this road. Chloe turned pale. "How did you find it?" she whispered. Liam smirked. "I didn't find it. I hid it there. I knew Anya would come to you. I knew you'd tell her something, and when she came here, you'd give it to her." He pulled a gun from his jacket and pointed it at me. "Give me what I'm looking for, Anya," he said, his voice even quieter, but now devoid of any emotion. "I know you have it." I didn't know what he was talking about. I had nothing but the key, which he already held in his hand. Chloe screamed, but I stood, unable to move. Liam shook his head. "Too bad. I thought you were smarter." He aimed the gun at Chloe. "Where is it?" he asked. She remained silent. He fired. A deafening shot echoed in the room, and I fell to the ground, covering my head with my hands. When I looked up, I saw Liam lying on the floor, bleeding. A shocking silence filled the room. I looked at Chloe. She was holding a gun in her hand, her eyes filled with terror and fear. I didn't mean to," she whispered. I stood up, walked over to her and hugged her. "Shh, it's okay. It's okay." We called the police. When they arrived, we told them everything. We showed them the key that Liam had brought with him. We told them about his blackmail, about his threats. The police began their investigation. They found a hard drive in his car which contained all of his crimes. It wasn't just blackmail, it was financial fraud. Liam had stolen millions of dollars from his company, and Chloe and her friend, whom she had met while traveling, were his accomplices. And it was this friend, whom Liam had betrayed, who was the man hiding in the shadows. He was waiting. He was waiting for Liam to come home. The silence that followed the gunshot was a physical thing, a living, breathing entity that filled the room and swallowed all sound. The only noise was my own ragged choke gasp. I stared at Chloe. She was holding the gun in her hand, her eyes wide with terror, and her arms were shaking so violently I feared she would drop the weapon. She looked like a frightened child, caught doing something irreversible. I didn't mean to," she whispered, her lips trembling. "I didn't want this." My legs felt like jelly, but I forced myself to stand and walk to her slowly, not wanting to frighten her even more. I wrapped my arms around her, pulling her close so she wouldn't see the lifeless form on the floor. "Shh, it's okay. It's okay," I whispered into her hair, even though I knew nothing would ever be okay again. We called the police. When they arrived, I felt the clinical smell of disinfectant and the presence of strangers fill a space where a horrible, intimate nightmare had just unfolded. We told them everything from the beginning. We showed them the key that Liam had brought with him. We told them about his blackmail, about his threats, about how he set us up. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, but a bone-chilling horror took its place. The police began their investigation. They found a hard drive in his car, which contained a detailed record of all his crimes. It wasn't just blackmail. It was a multi-million-dollar financial fraud. Liam had stolen millions of dollars from his company, and he was willing to do anything to keep it a secret. And Chloe and her friend, whom she had met while traveling, were his accomplices. It was this friend, whom Liam had betrayed, who was the man hiding in the shadows. He was waiting. He was waiting for Liam to come home. The police took us into custody, accusing us of murder. The night in jail felt endless. Every minute was filled with the smell of old mold and dampness. I sat in my cell, thinking about how my perfect life had turned into a nightmare. I thought about how blind I had been, how I had not seen the obvious. I thought about Liam. I thought about what he had done. I thought about Chloe. I thought about how I should have protected her but couldn't. In the morning, we were brought to court. When we entered the courtroom, I saw Chloe's friend. He smiled, and then I understood that he was not an accomplice. He was the one who helped us. He was a secret FBI agent. He told the court the whole truth. He had been following Liam for several years. He knew that Liam was a fraud and a killer. He knew that Liam had framed Chloe to hide his crimes. He knew that Liam was going to kill Chloe to hide his secret. But he did not know about the second part of the plan, the one where Liam wanted to frame me. And then he told the court about the key. The key, he said, was the key to a bank locker where Liam kept all his money, but he didn't know that we had found out about it. We replaced the money with empty sheets of paper. He was sure he could escape, but he was wrong. When Liam was brought to court, he was shocked. He looked at me and Chloe with hatred. He was sure that we would die in prison, but he was wrong. He looked at us, and in his eyes there was no fear, no anger, only pure, absolute madness. I felt 1,000 eyes on me, their collective gaze a heavy, suffocating blanket. I could see the raw horror in some of them, the pity in others, and the cold, professional curiosity in the rest. But I didn't care. My focus was locked on Liam. He was a caged animal, his face contorted in a mix of rage and despair. He screamed that it was all a lie. He screamed that I was to blame for everything. He screamed that I should have died, not him, but his words were empty. The sound was a distant buzz, like a fly trapped in a jar. No one listened to him. Everyone looked at me and Chloe. They looked at us like heroes, like survivors. In the end, the court delivered its verdict. Liam was found guilty of murder, fraud, and blackmail. He was sentenced to life in prison, and Chloe and I were acquitted. We walked out of the courtroom to the blinding flashes of cameras and a wave of applause. I felt a weight, one I hadn't realized I was carrying, fall from my shoulders. It was a physical release, as if a hand had finally let go of my throat. I felt like I could breathe again. We left Sydney. We bought a small house on the coast, the air filled with the scent of salt and the sound of waves crashing on the shore. We started to live again. We opened an art gallery where Chloe displayed her paintings. I helped her. I found new artists, new clients. We lived a simple, quiet life. But we never forgot what happened. We never forgot Liam. We never forgot what he did. We never forgot what we went through. And we never forgot what we did. Several years passed. Chloe and I lived happily. We were no longer afraid. We were no longer hiding. We were no longer feeling guilty. We were living our lives. One day, as I walked down the street, I saw a newspaper. On the front page was a photo of Liam. He looked old and haggard, his eyes hollowed out. I didn't feel anger or joy. I felt only a profound sense of pity. I thought about the man he was. I thought about what he had done. And I realized that revenge isn't about making someone suffer. Revenge is about living your life. Revenge is about being happy. Revenge is about being free. I looked up at the sky. It was a brilliant sapphire blue. The sun was shining brightly. I felt the warm wind caress my face. I smelled the ocean. I felt alive. I felt free. I realized that my perfect life was a lie, but my new life was real, and it was so much better.